Sponsored by Dennis J. Courtney, M.D., Director of the Courtney Medical Group, located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray, Pennsylvania. For more information or to make an appointment, call 724-942-3002. That's 724-942-3002 for Dennis J. Courtney, M.D.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to AM Impact on Your Health. AM Impact on Your Health, where every day our goal is to have you learn at least one thing to help you live better and longer. AM Impact on Your Health, heard every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9 o'clock. I'm Dr. Dennis Courtney, and I'm with you each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9. AM Impact on Your Health, where each day you'll find current medical news, knowledgeable guests, fascinating health topics, and where we do encourage you to call in to join in. Today, it's post-holiday time. I know there's been a day in between, and hope you enjoyed our repeat show on Monday, those of you with nothing to do at 8 o'clock in the morning on that day. We're back with you live today and setting up an opportunity for you to check in with us today on how you feel about a number of things, many of which we brought to you last month. One of the things I'm going to bring to you today has to do with, well, it's a topic that gets my blood boiling. And I saw two different Joe Mercola emails here over the span of about 2 weeks, and there were two issues of FDA. That's the subject that gets it going. And I want to bring them to you today. Hopefully bring them to you in an honest way and see if it gets you moving, gets the hormones popping, gets the neck veins distended just like it did on me. FDA, friend or foe? Who in the heck are they? We'll be talking about them right after our first break and give you an idea of what they're up to. You just never know. I guess you always know it's not good. Anyway, we'll see what you think about it. Coming up, this month, don't forget, want to mention to you on the 17th out there at the Freedom of Cancer Therapy, Freedom of Choice in Cancer Therapy. Today's in Route 8 Butler on the 17th. 7 p.m., Route 8, just south of Butler. You got a gentleman going to be there. His name is Dr. Fernando Lapayo. He's 108. Going to be 109 1 month later. I don't want to miss it. As other things come across my desk, I'll bring them to you. Also, too, for those of you catch Danville coming on our show an awful lot. Of course, I should mention to you, we wonder, why does Danville keep calling in? Well, Danville is one of those listeners that keeps on calling in because he listens to our Stream Up Live component, where if you're in a poor reception area, just go right to the computer, dial djcmd.com, opening page, it'll say AM Impact Live. Click on that, and when we're live, you'll be live right there with us, not only in audio, but in video. And then, of course, as we complete the show, I then log that day's show under our archive section. You get to that from the same front page at the website, and then click on archives, however, and all the shows. I mean, all of them. Since 2006, my goodness, that's 4 years worth of shows are available to you just with a couple of clicks. You know how to do it. Do hear a quick knock at the door. Come on in the store. Hello and welcome aboard. Hello?
Yes, Dr. Courtney.
Yes.
How does one get the, if you have hemochromatosis and it's plugging up the liver, how do you get it cleaned out?
Well, that normally is an iron issue, and of course the iron content of the red blood cell is in overabundance. The liver is one of those organs that does clean out, as well as the spleen, by the way. Those two organs in particular clean out the used up and wasted red blood cells. How do you get it cleaned out? First, you have to figure out why, what your iron content is, and how to lower it. And once you're able to do that, you're going to find out that the liver will take care of itself. But as long as this is able to continue, the red blood cell that is, to continue to manifest these higher quantities of metals, especially iron, there's just no way to clear them out until you prevent the further formation of the red blood cells that are abnormal. Make sense?
I guess there's a family friend in that there, and they told him just go home. They can't do anything for you.
Well, you know, I don't know where he stands with respect to, you know, is there damage really occurring in his liver because of the accumulation of these red blood cells?
That's what they're telling him. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you know, the liver is a great detoxification organ, but it can be overloaded with its capacity to be able to handle any amount of toxic substance, and you just reach a point where the liver is now so damaged that it can't handle even the most minor of insults, let alone what might be very well the most major insult in this particular patient's case. So.
What do you stay off everything that has iron in?
Well, you're going to certainly have to, you know, if the red blood cell is contributing that much to the toxic overload of this particular individual, then albeit certainly they're going to figure out what caused the overabundance of the iron to begin with. But I got a feeling this has been going on for a lifetime. You know, I know some folks that have forms of anemia, Mediterranean anemia, for instance, where there's a high iron content, and their lifetime of liver toxicity develops, and a point will be reached at some place down the road where the liver has just had too many insults, and liver failure ensues, and once that ensues, you're literally looking at transplantation. Has this ever been brought up to?
No, not at this point.
Okay, well, certainly if you had the primary motivating force for the need for that liver that has not been changed, then it doesn't make perfectly great sense to transplant the liver and get a healthy one, only to re-damage it with the same ensuing disease,
right,
backing that up. So seems like it's a pretty bad situation that your friend's in.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yep.
Sure. You can call up too today and get it off your chest, whatever's on your mind. I got a couple of things to throw out to you. Absolutely going to talk about the FDA here right after the first break. I think it's really bothering me after I looked at these two emails from Mercola. But don't forget last month now, and maybe you want to come on in to see us to see how we can help you. We talked about a lot of things last month, all that have value to a high percentage of those listeners out there. Let's take the thyroid, for instance, and I left you with a little bit of a homework assignment, which was, hey, check your basal body temperatures. I haven't heard any of you checking in. I'm wondering, what did you find with those basal body temperatures? You know, when you do those basal body temperatures, which is a temperature that you take either under the arm or under the tongue upon arising in the morning before the feet hit the floor, take it for about 5 or 7 minutes and register and log it in, and what you're going to notice is that you're going to be a little under the mark, especially those ladies out there listening to me, because the normal basal body temperature, which isn't 98.6, that's your up and around walking temperature, but your basal state temperatures, the ones that you reach as you emerge from sleep, where everything's pretty much on idle. The engine really hasn't revved up yet. At that point, the normal body temperature is not 98.6. It'll take a little bit of time to get the engine worked up so that you can generate enough heat to achieve 98.6. But right at that point, the temperature still needs to be, and here comes the answer to the query, well, what should the basal body temperature be? Well, it should be in the high 97s or the low 98s. And I will tell you that it's going to be very difficult, especially ladies out there, to find that you're in that safe range. Very few of you are going to be there. And what do you do about it? Well, you got to deal with that thyroid in a whole bunch of ways. That's why I'm inviting you to come on and to see me, so we can talk about it and get it corrected, because the host of symptoms that come with thyroid disease, especially hypothyroid disease, which is all correctable, the starting point usually is your recognition that you actually have the problem, and I will tell you that if you've had blood tests done by your doctor, and for that reason you think you don't have a problem, that is a misread, because unfortunately blood tests can't really forecast when hypothyroidism is in place. The blood tests are not a good measure. The basal body temperature is better and more reliable than the blood tests, and we'll let it go at that. Other things to talk about too. Give us a call. Come on in to see us. Those with blood pressure problems. Hey, what did we talk about last month when we said vitamin D? This wonderful vitamin that everybody's turning to. And now that we get some sunshine around here, everybody's going to try to get au natural. 20 minutes of direct sunlight exposure, which is now possible at this time of the year. I mean direct sunlight exposure can generate as much as 20,000 units of vitamin D. But where do you stand? What is your vitamin D level? You got to measure it. We'd like to do that for you. And wherever we find that you are in terms of your vitamin D level, we need to correct it and bring it up. So much benefit is available to you, not just with the trite phrase of strong bones and healthy teeth. This is so much more important than just those two structures. Important enough as they are, but a whole host of others. And of course we learned too that there's an ideal blood pressure benefit for the use of vitamin D, and that vitamin D is a natural ACE inhibitor, which is an angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitor. There's a whole class of drugs pharmaceutical industry has put together to treat blood pressure based on ACE inhibition, and the same phenomenon can occur by taking natural forms of vitamin D without the need for those medications. Anyway, see how it works. Why don't we do this? Take a short break. When we come back, let's see if you get as worked up as I did when I try to convey to you what I've been looking at my computer and learning about our wonderful FDA. They are up to it again. I think I'll be able to explain what I mean. Be back in a moment. Be listening and ready to go.
This is Dennis J. Courtney, MD. Have you become confused about how best to manage your health? It's no wonder. It seems that every time you turn on the television or radio, another expert has yet another suggestion for you to follow that seems to be reasonable enough, but no matter how dutifully you follow the instruction, it just doesn't quite produce the results that you were looking for. If this confusion sounds familiar to you, give us a call at the Center for Complementary Health, where we'll make some sense of the confusion based on a blending of traditional and alternative medicine that we've been perfecting over the last 7 years. We offer metabolic nutrition testing, immune system repair, natural hormone replacement therapy, chelation therapy, cutting-edge allergy correction, and a host of other safe and effective alternative therapies.
Dennis J. Courtney, MD, is located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray. Phone 724-942-3002.
Honey, just got the word. The company's new health plan has a $5,000 deductible. We have to make sure nobody gets sick this year. Remember what those doctor's visits cost for last year's colds and flu? Oh, sorry, I've got to go. Love you.
We can do this. We can cut the fast food lunches. Soda, that's a lot of sugar. We could all take that evening walk. And hey, I heard a program about fruit of the spirit. What did they say? 1 ounce, the equivalent of 5 servings of fruits with herbs and minerals. We could add some to our breakfast protein shakes. Fruit of the Spirit is unique whole fruit puree. Fruit of the Spirit contains fresh fruits native to the Holy Land and alkalizing minerals from the Dead Sea. With no added sugars, Fruit of the Spirit's unique product from 5 years of work from science-based nutritional experts. Call 1-800-442-3793 for a special promotional offer. Fruit of the Spirit, a blessing for your good health. Fruit of the Spirit, convenient, affordable, and delicious. That's 1-800-442-3793. Call them now, 1-800-442-3793.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back once again to AM Impact on Your Health here in this gorgeous Wednesday version of the show, post Memorial Day weekend. We're with you today and allowing you actually to give us a call. Anything on your mind is okay with me. I have a couple things to get off my chest. This one has really built up a lot of pressure. You'll see what I mean here. Anytime I read about the FDA and what they're up to, it tends to get the blood boiling. Well, is it just me? Do I really have a problem or no one else? Well, we'll see. I'm going to tell a story, actually two different stories about our wonderful FDA. And, well, maybe you think they're wonderful, and if too, tell me why. And maybe you don't think they're so wonderful, and if you don't think so, you can tell me why too. But listen to the tale of the two FDAs. And at the end, let's see if there's a moral to the story. First part of this story has to do, by the way, there were two emails sent to me by Joe McCullough. And this is over the span of a number of weeks. So you sort of had to be reading them out of context to put the two together. But that's just what happened. I read one of these, and I happened to flip through another email and picked out in the very next email, the second of these articles. And to me, the stark reality and the dichotomy between the two FDAs hit me right in the kisser. Let's see if it does the same to you, or whether or not I just have a frayed set of wires and nerves and I get a little too emotional, and that could happen. Let's see if you get emotional. Anyway, on email number one, this is of a couple of weeks ago, and in this particular email, what is explained here is that this issue of the FDA's intervention in your right to consume the foods that you want to consume. The backdrop of the story, talking particularly about the purchasing and the ingestion of raw milk. There's a couple of facts that Joe puts out to tell the story, and I feel I got to pass them on to you. Now, he says if you try to purchase a gallon of raw milk in the majority of U.S. states, you could be taken away in handcuffs. And he means that literally, with the exception of 10 states that allow retail raw milk sales and 15 other states that allow farm sales. The purchasing of raw milk in the United States is a crime, according to the FDA. And you getting the picture? It's starting to come in clear to you? It turns out that most recently there was a lawsuit filed against the FDA by a group called it's a little lengthy, the name of the group, the Farm to Consumer Legal Defense Fund, the FTCLDF. Once again, Farm to Consumer Legal Defense Fund. And they filed a lawsuit against the FDA over the raw milk ban that the FDA has placed in those states that don't have a law allowing you to purchase either at the farm site, or there are 10 states that actually allow you to purchase it at retail sites. Okay, so what has happened in those states is that in order to try to combat the fact that in their state they don't have the ability to get the raw milk in one of the previous described ways, which is a state that allows for the retail sale, or in some states like Pennsylvania, where you're not allowed to purchase at retail, but you can go to the farm and actually take your own container, and you are allowed to purchase raw milk there. Well, in all the other states, they have been trying, parents and consumers have been trying to consume raw milk, they think, because it's a healthy form of milk, and certainly there's a lot of evidence to say that it is, as opposed to the pasteurized forms of milk and so on and so forth. But what they're doing is they're developing contracts, these people who live in these other states, and growing numbers of people in this country are obtaining the foods of their choice through private contractual arrangements, such as a buyer's club agreement and herd share contracts, where by virtue of entering into this contract, which they feel they have a right to do, entering into contracts, they should be able to obtain and consume that which they feel is in their best health interest. Well, as it turns out, the FDA doesn't feel that way. In fact, after last month, the FDA finally responded to the lawsuit filed by the Farm to Consumer Legal Defense Fund. And here are some of the selected quotations from their response and their answering the questions that were posed to them by the original lawsuit, the plaintiff in this case, which is the FTCLDE. And so they went on to say, they being the FDA, here they come. There is, says the FDA, no absolute right to consume or feed children any particular food. That's their first statement that they make in their reply to the lawsuit. A little further on, there is no deeply rooted historical tradition of unfettered access to foods of all kinds. A little further on, the FDA goes to say, plaintiffs' assertion of fundamental right to their own bodily and physical health, which include what foods they do and do not choose to consume for themselves and their families, is similarly unavailing because the plaintiffs, here comes the cruncher line, the plaintiffs do not have a fundamental right to obtain any food they wish. So says the FDA. The FDA's brief goes on to state that even if such a right did exist, it would not render the FDA's regulations unconstitutional because prohibiting the interstate sale and distribution of unpasteurized milk promotes bodily and physical health. There is no, here's their closer statement, there is no fundamental right to freedom of contract. And so FDA has taken their stand in these, and even though there are states that certainly allow for people to legally purchase milk, in some states in a retail setting, in other states at the farm itself. Let's see, there are 10, what was it? There were 10 states, 15 states that allow retail sales, and 10 additional states that allow the farm sales. So 25 of the 50 consumers have a way of getting this, what they might believe to be healthy food, and get it legally. But if you're in the other 25 states, and you thought that you were going to be able to enter into a contract with a farmer, with a dairy farmer, in order to be able to purchase it, this lawsuit has been responded to. The lawsuit, which was filed by the Farm to Consumer Legal Defense Fund, which evidently must represent all the people who entered into contracts in order to legally, what they felt was legally purchase that which they wanted to consume, because they felt it was in their best health interest. The FDA essentially says, you don't have a right to anything unless we tell you you have a right. So if you're in those 25 states and you thought you were shrewd to be able to arrange to get what you wanted to be able to consume for yourself, as well as allow the other members in your family to consume, the FDA says, absolutely not, because we're the FDA, and we'll tell you what you're allowed to have and what you're not. Now, that's story number one. It's so typical of FDA that you're not surprised by it. I'm not surprised by it. This heavy-handed, sort of way out of proportion response to people just trying to consume what they believe is in their best health interest, and within 25 states, they're allowed to do anyway. Just so happens in their state, not having either the ability to purchase this raw milk in a retail way, or at the farm site itself, the FDA says, we'll let you know. Well, we're letting you know. You can't get the stuff at all. We'll tell you whether or not you're allowed to consume what you think you'd like to consume. And they essentially said, oh, no, you can't. So, that's story number one. Now, a little further on in my emails comes story number two. Let's see if this makes sense to you. It just struck a dichotomy that lit up, enraged me, and see if it does anything to you. This happens to do with the most recent email talking about the famous diarrhea vaccine. There is one, you know. It's been out there for a number of years now, but it's a vaccine against rotaviruses, which is the leading cause. It's the category of viruses, the leading cause of diarrhea in infants. Now, prior to the vaccine being released and put into use, the statistics went something like this. There are about 50,000 infants a year who really were hospitalized because of severe diarrhea. However, as many as that is, and that's a pretty high number, 40 infant deaths were attributable to infant diarrhea per year. 50,000 hospitalized, but according to what I've been able to read, they being these infants, usually respond very well to IV fluids, and they don't get into serious harm. I'm imagining that the 40 infants that die a year obviously are brought to the hospital maybe too late. But nonetheless, that's the way the statistics ran prior to the introduction of the vaccine. Since the vaccine has been introduced, the death rate for these infants who have diarrhea hasn't changed one lick. The death rate, by the way, has just gone up slightly. So instead of 40 infant deaths a year, the amount may have gone up just 40 to 45 or something like that. So the question is, does the rotavirus vaccine have any effect on hospitalizations? And that issue is still out. Now, here are the facts that lead up to the conclusion which we'll let you draw. Here's fact number one. On May 7th, here comes the FDA. The FDA announces that there's a certain virus contaminating the product made by GlaxoSmithKline. Their form of the rotavirus vaccine is contaminated with something called porcine circovirus 1. And they had a big meeting on May 7th, the FDA did, with GlaxoSmithKline to bring this to their attention. Can you imagine? Turns out that this PCV1, which is porcine circovirus 1, doesn't really affect pigs or humans in any detrimental way, but still a contaminant found in the vaccine made by GlaxoSmithKline. They can't figure out how it got there, but the FDA said, hey, it's in there. That was fact number one. Here's fact number two. 2 days before the meeting, there's, as it turns out, another form of pig virus. This is PCV2, which is porcine circovirus 2, which is a much more dangerous form of the virus. It now happens to be found in the Merck rotavirus product. And this does have disease consequences in pigs, and not so well known what it might do in humans, but in pigs it has some devastating consequences, and we find that this contaminant is in the Merck product. That's fact number two. Here's fact number three. It's not clear whether PCV2 can infect humans, even though it's perfectly clear that it has devastating consequences in pigs. Fact number four. GlaxoSmithKline did attend the meeting on May 7th that the FDA held and voluntarily removed, they weren't told to now, they said, we voluntarily will remove our product from the market that's contaminated with this PCV1 tainted product until we can reformulate the product and not have it contain any more of any contaminant. That's fact four. So the first thing I say is FDA allowed them to voluntarily remove it. They didn't tell them to remove it. They didn't demand that they remove it. They certainly demanded that people not be allowed to consume raw milk. Fact number 5, and this one gets the blood boiling. It starts to boil right about now. Merck, you know, the one that had the contaminant of the PCV tube, the more serious of the two contaminants, the more serious of the two viruses, the one that can have devastating consequences in a pig population, even though at the present time no one's able to make a case for what it does to humans. Merck didn't come to the meeting on May 7th. And as a result, the contamination of their product with this PCV2 was not addressed, and therefore it's still available and on the market today. The FDA took no steps against it because they didn't show up to that meeting. Now, this is your FDA, and this is what enrages me. On the one hand, when it comes to consuming raw milk, it looks like they have guns drawn and they're ready to completely wipe out any moving object in the room if you should so dare to try to get a quart of raw milk to consume in one of those 25 states where the state hasn't already taken the ability and given it to the consumer in one of two ways to get it. They say, you're not allowed, we're telling you not allowed, I don't care what you think in terms of what you may think is healthy for you, but we, the FDA, will let you know what is healthy, so stay tuned to this station. On the other hand, however, when it comes to what I believe their job should really be, which is protecting the public from drugs, not from foods, but from drugs, who have a case where most recently got a contaminated supply of this rotavirus. We're not even getting into the fact as to whether you should vaccinate your kids. We're talking about a contaminant found in the products made by two different companies. One, GlaxoSmithKline, and the other Merck. In the GSK version, PSV1, which is not a very serious virus, but nonetheless a contaminant, they allowed them to voluntarily remove the product instead of telling them to remove it. And because Merck didn't attend the meeting, as it stands today, June 2nd, that product is still available and still being sold with that contaminant in it and still being injected in children today because the FDA didn't mandate that they withdraw it for public safety reasons. I don't know what they're going to do. They'll probably wait until they decide to come to a meeting before they can talk about it, and I'll let you know what the result of such a meeting is if and when it takes place. Now, there's your FDA on the one hand with respect to raw milk and the position that they take, which is a pretty stern position, and on the other hand with a contaminated vaccine for which I believe that we should be looking at the FDA to have the public protected, and they didn't protect the public in any way, shape, or form. They allowed GlaxoSmithKline to voluntarily remove it, and they still allow the use of the other product made by Merck to be used up to this very day with a more serious contaminant found in it. There is no rule, as you can gather. I don't know where you get the baseline here. There appears to be no rule that allows for the removal of a product if there's a contaminant in it. And there should be a rule. Looks like there's a rule that you can't violate to get a quart of raw milk in 25 of the 50 states. And that's the way I see it. I don't know how you see it. How about letting me know? What do you think about the FDA? Friend or foe? I think I've already made my decision. What's yours? Let's take a short break. When we get back, give me a call. 412-825-6262. What do you think about this FDA? And you can clean up your language for prime time. Let me know what you think about it. Anything on your mind is okay with me. Anything you want to talk about, doesn't have to be the FDA, is okay too. We'll be back in a moment.
Want to help your family eat healthier? Instead of learning to disguise tofu in wondrous ways, how about some real nutritional power? If your family has the typical American palate for fries, pizza, and burgers, giving your family the blessing of good nutrition is a struggle. Fruit of the Spirit is the answer for your family's nutritional needs. Fruit of the Spirit is an all-natural, whole fruit puree made from fresh fruits native to the Holy Land with alkalizing minerals. Fruit of the Spirit was 5 years in the formulation, the work of a team of top nutritional experts with independent science to confirm its antioxidant power. 1 ounce a day provides the equivalent of 5 servings of fruits and minerals. Fruit of the Spirit is convenient, affordable, and delicious. Even your picky family will sing the praises of Fruit of the Spirit. Give your loved ones the blessing of good nutrition. Call 1-800-442-3793 for a special promotional offer. Fruit of the Spirit, a blessing for your good health. That's 1-800-442-3793. Call them now, 1-800-442-3793.
This is Dennis J. Courtney, MD. Have you become confused about how best to manage your health? It's no wonder. It seems that every time you turn on the television or radio, another expert has yet another suggestion for you to follow that seems to be reasonable enough, but no matter how dutifully you follow the instructions, it just doesn't quite produce the results that you were looking for. If this confusion sounds familiar to you, give us a call at the Center for Complementary Health, where we'll make some sense of the confusion based on a blending of traditional and alternative medicine that we've been perfecting over the last 7 years. We offer metabolic nutrition testing, immune system repair, natural hormone replacement therapy, chelation therapy, cutting-edge allergy correction, and a host of other safe and effective alternative therapies.
Dennis J. Courtney, MD, is located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray. Phone 724-942-3002.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back once again to AM Impact on Your Health. Heard here on KHB 620 each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9 o'clock. I'm Dr. Dennis Courtney with you today on this Wednesday version of the show. Getting it a little off my chest here. Wasn't too happy reading these emails. It just looks night and day to me. I don't know. What do you think about it, this FDA? I know as a general rule we are pretty much down on it, but to find that they're so heavy-handed when it comes to drinking milk and appear to have no hand at all when it comes to, smacking down the drug companies from producing a product with a potentially harmful contaminant or any contaminant. It looks as though, by the way, that's the issue. They don't have any rules to remove products from the market that have a contaminant in them. If they did, I would have hoped that they would have used that rule to make those companies remove their product from the market, and they did not. They held a meeting, served some chips, some Cokes, and they let GlaxoSmithKline voluntarily withdraw their product from the market. Yet they're coming in with guns blazing for those that may be holding a quart of milk in their hand. I don't know. Doesn't seem right to me. What do you think about it? 412-825-6262. That's 412-825-6262. Give us a call. Try to weigh in on this one if you care to. Should talk to you about a little bit about Deborah Ray. I'm the Fruit of the Spirit. You hear the spots. She's always going in here for our show. Fruit of the Spirit. She published a book. We had her on the show back on the 17th of May. That book is called Harmony, and it is a blending of mind, body, and spirit under the guise of this wonderful product called Fruit of the Spirit that she initially brought to us back in November of 2009. If you want to get some of this product, we will give you a free taste of it. Come on in and enjoy it on us, and let us know what you think about it. We'll also give you a free copy of the book that she has written in collaboration with 2 medical doctors. One doctor is Dr. John Young. I do know him personally. The other doctor is Aida Reyes, and I don't know her, but these two medical doctors in collaboration with Deborah put it together a pretty, it's not a lengthy book, but it's just packed full of information. We have them free here. Please come on in and we'll be happy to give you a free copy of it, as well as a free taste of Fruit of the Spirit, this wonderfully tasting assembly of 14 biblical fruit purees, the alkalinized mineral from the Dead Sea, frankincense, myrrh for herbs, as well as resveratrol. What a combination. Tastes so good, and the has 5 servings in 1 ounce, the equivalent of 5 servings of fruits and vegetables in 1 ounce. So come on in and see us and take us up on it. If you don't feel like you want to travel to the office, you can order the product in a couple of ways. One, just use the 800 number, 1-800-442-3793 to get the product, 800-442-3793, or go online to fruitspirit.net. That's fruitspirit.net, and you can get it that way too. The book, I think you'll only be able to get here, and we have to give you a copy. We hear a knock on the door. Come on in the store. Hello, and welcome aboard.
Yes, I was calling to ask, I have a problem with the cecal valve not staying closed, and also the Houston valve, one on each side of the abdomen. And
what was the second valve?
I
heard the ileocecal valve, and what were the other valves?
There's another one on the left they call the Houston valve. And when one seems to act up, the other one does. And you get, it's like your food comes back instead of keep on going forward.
The valve is allowing the food to back up instead of move in one direction. Is
right.
What I hear you telling me. Okay, so.
It makes you feel pretty sick.
Well, is this associated with diarrhea or constipation or both?
Pardon me?
Is this associated with diarrhea or constipation or both?
It could be both.
It could be both? Do you have, you being...
More so constipation, I would say, but even when it's okay, this still happens.
So you've had colonoscopy done where they found this valve to be not functioning properly, have you? You had a colonoscopy?
I've had colonoscopies, but they've never said anything. Actually, I found this out from a chiropractor, and they can do maneuvers, but it doesn't fold. In other words, you could have that done, and minutes later, it's back again.
Sure.
And you can't eat I can't seem to eat any raw foods, which I would definitely prefer to do. If I do, then it seems like it will act up more often.
Well, is this sort of category?
I will say stress can make it happen.
Yeah, even though you're describing the valve as the problem, and we'll just let it go at that and say that you're right, it's the valve. You apparently have had this diagnosis made by a chiropractor and not by a gastroenterologist. Am I right about that?
Right.
Okay, so what about there's a big category of gastrointestinal disorders that appears to apply here. It's a very amorphous category. It doesn't really focus in on one particular thing, but you appear to have all of the components of this condition called IBS. Have you ever heard of it?
Yes.
Okay. So the valve issue, which I'm a little skeptical about. I'm not going to say that this has been misdiagnosed or whatever, but nonetheless, the conventional medical community has the ability to get all the way to the ileocecal valve, and so whenever the colonoscopy is done, they're able to travel the full length of the colon all the way to the cecum. And if the valve is damaged in any way or not functioning appropriately, it is directly visualized, and so therefore it would be known on a colonoscopy whether or not you had a functioning valve or it didn't function. Yet you have not had a colonoscopy done for whatever reason, and the diagnoses that are being made are made without any science as I can see it. Okay, you tell me if I'm wrong, but nonetheless, you have a very finite diagnosis and yet a pretty vague way that you arrived at it. And although I'm glad to hear that whatever maneuvers are being done by your chiropractor are benefiting you, the fact that it could benefit you for 10 minutes literally could be assumed to be no benefit at all. Would you agree with me?
Right.
So you need...
But I thought perhaps, why would that valve open and close, not properly? Would it be sticking, just like, say, the mitral valve, which I have that problem also?
Well, that was diagnosed by science, I'm sure. But I'm saying to you, is it truly the valve that's dysfunctional here? Because you don't have any, you're going to tell me about how this was determined scientifically, when it actually has a way to be determined scientifically. Up till now, the best I could make of this is to say that you suffer from something called IBS, which is a big mishmash. It's not really specific at all, I understand that, but the symptoms that you're having are the symptoms of anybody with irritable bowel syndrome. I would say to either rule in or rule out this valve, you should be looking for the scientific steps to take to be able to do it, because right now you don't have them. And I think when it comes to such a specific diagnosis as you've already elaborated here for myself and the listeners, you deserve to have science back that up or refute it. Why don't you do that?
So in other words, a colonoscopy would be the only way?
Well, it certainly is one of the ways. Now, I would have to say that this is where the gastroenterologist, if you're having enough symptoms that it's bothering you to the extent that it obviously is, the best fixes that you can deal with up till now are 10 minutes in duration, maybe a little longer sometimes, maybe a little less. You deserve to be evaluated by a gastroenterologist. I'm not saying that a colonoscopy is the only way to have this diagnosed, but there are other scientific ways, whether that be through a barium swallow, whether that be through sonography, which they could also be able to visualize that valve, and the sonogram is completely without risk because there's no real invasiveness at all. I don't see the reason why you're avoiding the gastroenterologist here. This is the time that you need his expertise, at least to get the actual diagnosis nailed down. Okay?
Okay.
Please do that much at least. Don't consent to a colonoscopy if you don't want one, but allow other scientific contributions to make this diagnosis real, or if it isn't the correct one, make the diagnosis that is the correct one so that you have a way of getting to the actual resolution of the problem.
Well, you're saying a thermogram?
No, I didn't say thermogram. I don't think a thermogram would be the right tool. I said an echo, a Doppler, where they can visualize through sound waves, not thermogram. I don't believe a thermogram would be helpful here at all. But that's where the gastroenterologist would come in, and I think you deserve to be evaluated by one.
Okay.
So please
All right.
go see one, okay? If you don't know one, call me and I'll tell you about one, all right?
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, a little confusing to me, but need some expert input here, I believe. Here, another knock on the door. Come on in the store. Hello, and welcome aboard.
Hey, good morning, Dr. Courtney.
Hi.
I was compelled to call about your topic this morning.
The FDA, do you have a... How did it make you feel?
Well, before I get into that, the lady who called, I was hanging on there. I heard her, and I happen to have somewhat of a knowledge of this subject. The valve of Houston and the ileocecal valve are very prominent in chiropractic care.
Okay.
Valve of Houston is an old Geithner physiology term that chiropractors still use. But the reason that she's not having success in getting it's like an acupressure treatment where they will either go clockwise or counterclockwise on the muscles that surround those two valves.
Right.
The reason that no doubt that she's having problems getting that to hold is that she did not see a chiropractor trained in the total body modification technique that was taught by Dr. Victor Frank, who recently passed away. But this rib torque, if she looks in the mirror, I've bet my mortgage that if she goes and palpates, places her hand underneath her two rib cages at the very bottom, she'll see one is lower than the other one. And any chiropractor that's trained in the TBM, total body modification, can do that for her. We have a mutual friend, Lollipop.
Yes.
You have to talk to her. Years ago, her granddaughter went through everything you're talking about with medical, the colonoscopy,
the full workup.
The endoscopy. 6 months of it, she was having like a projectile reflux, and was literally the medical system had nothing more they could do for her, and literally within a few minutes we resolved that, and she went out and ate at Subway and ate it for the first time in weeks. So she can find a doctor that does that rib torque for her. It's a very simple maneuver. I think she'll get pretty much total and permanent relief.
You really shed some light on this. I'm sure she is still listening and benefits from that.
If she goes to the web, it's TBM seminars, and she could find a practitioner locator. I don't practice anymore because I like threat from the state medical board, but I'm sure there's chiropractors out there that are trained in TBM that could do this very easily, quickly.
Thank you, and she thanks you. Now, what do you think about the FDA?
Oh my gosh! Dr. James Weiner has recently had on as a guest of his, and he's repeating this show. Dr. Rima Labo.
You know Rima, sure.
Yeah, and I think you had her on years ago.
Mm-hmm.
She's back at it. It's real serious what's going on with Codex, because what you're talking about, they're looking at making into law with these food safety bills, the amendments to the financial bills, all sorts of crazy shenanigans that our Congress pulls to try to gut DISHA, our loved act from 1994.
That's right.
Gave us the right to hear information and rights to our supplements, and made supplements like food. But they're trying everything they can to either water that down, get rid of it, to redo it, and to take control of the supplements. But not only that, if Codex ever became law, you would not be able to grow tomatoes in your own backyard that you did not use Monsanto's poisons on. And the excuse they would use for that sort of thing is, remember last year's blight. Killed a lot of tomatoes. They would say, nope, you have to grow it. If you get caught growing tomatoes without using these pesticides, these herbicides, these fungicides, we can put you in jail.
How onerous.
Yeah, those are the kind of things that are coming, and you can see it in the type of thing you were talking about.
Yeah, the thing with the raw milk.
That's bizarre. It's because raw milk, as we know from Weston Price and from people who like the fellow who was just up at the Cancer for Freedom of Choice group in Butler, Kevin, I'm blanking on his last name, but he just did a wonderful talk. He's a nutritionist and really promotes raw milk in the Weston Price Foundation, and they believe in eating good fats, and
sure.
Milk is one of the good ones if it's raw.
That's Kevin Brown who was up there last month, right?
Yes, that's it.
That's it. President of the Liberation Wellness Center.
Yeah, we met him at one of the expos here at Pittsburgh, Food to Table or something like that. Was recently here. He's a great speaker, very knowledgeable, and boy, they're going to do everything they can to make us. You shouldn't be able to call it milk. Remember how years ago the milk industry sued to get like soy milk and almond milk?
Oh yeah, they didn't like the word milk being attached to anything other than something produced by a cow.
This is just 1984 opposite, because the stuff that they put out should be called milk food. Like you see cheese food and
that's
packages.
Exactly right.
They shouldn't be able to call it milk, because it's not. And you were talking about that uric acid thing last week.
Oh yeah, with the fructose.
With the fructose. Well, here's one of the things with homogenized milk. If you look at it epidemiologically, and you study, there was studies that show when countries like Sweden or the U.S. started to homogenize milk, heart disease went up exponentially with homogenization. And it's because there was uric acid in milk, and the molecule's too big to pass through the digestive system. But as soon as they homogenize it, they blast that molecule, and now it can get into your arteries, and it's like battery acid. It's like having homocysteine in there.
Interesting to mention that homogenization took. Nobody can find cream at the top of the milk anymore. It's so beat up that it's spread throughout the whole thing. That's why they did it, but instead of doing it, I didn't realize that they broke up the fructose molecule to the point where it can get entrance.
It's the uric acid molecule.
The uric acid molecule. Yeah, gotcha.
As you can imagine, it would be just like battery acid. It's already.
Yeah, it is. It's a rough thing.
To get there, the uric acid molecule broken up so that it gets digested and into our bloodstream. You can imagine the havoc it wreaks. Well, it has wreaked. Look at the what's happening to everybody around you. I bring some people I work with in your office because they're diabetic. They've had stents 5 years ago, open bypass surgeries. They're obese. I look at their diet. They're eating the foods, the stuff that the government wants them to, that wants to protect. Big pharma, big biotechnica, big agra, big chemica. That's what the FDA is about, protecting those big interests, because that's who's paying them.
Yeah, well, it's obvious when they get so heavy-handed with somebody with a quart of milk, yet a contaminant in a vaccine, they just let them voluntarily remove it. Then nobody was upset, nobody got worked up, and in fact, the one the Merck company still has their product out there and available for use with a more serious contaminant than the one that was voluntarily pulled. So you tell me where you think the FDA should be, they're not, and where you would like to tell them to keep your hands off of my milk, there you find it.
We've got to stop the revolving door, Doc. The revolving door between the big companies and our bureaucracies has got to end, because most of them in government were in the CEOs of these same companies. Even in the court system, Thomas was a Monsanto lawyer. And, of course, Donald Rumsfeld, the famous story about him being president and CEO of Searle whenever they approved aspartame. And it goes on and on with the revolving door. They get to be a CEO, they come to the FDA. The FDA, they put the time in there, they get a big mega $1 million job at one of the big Technica, big Pharmaca, big agribiz companies. It's not going to end until we end the bribery, we end the corruption, and take the country back.
Well, I'm glad to see that you read this as I read it. It's just tyrannical. It's tyranny. Government heaped onto us through an agency that is running roughshod of all citizens of the United States.
Well, look up Nutricide from Rima Lebo on the internet.
Okay.
There's it's an hour-long lecture that she gives. Nutricide,
I'll look at it. Everybody out there they can listen to. We'll talk about it on Friday. Until then, Dave, thank you so much for weighing in.
Thank you, Doc.
Okay. Folks, there you have it. Wonderful day today. Have a great day yourself. I'll see you on Friday. Until then, this is Dr. Dennis Courtney saying so long for AM Impact on Your Health.
AM Impact on Your Health is sponsored by Dennis J. Courtney, MD, Director of the Courtney Medical Group, located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray, Pennsylvania. For more information or to make an appointment, call 724-942-3002. That's 724-942-3002. For Dennis J.